Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Jun Jie Ng. I'm a powerlifting coach from the UK, and today I am in Elevate Barbell Club in Singapore. Now, one of the things that I like to do is to learn from other coaches. So today I have a treat for you. This is going to be a series of videos where we go through everything that you need to know about the bench press, from warming up to executing, from finding the best accessories, as well as making the most out of the equipment for your bench press. Today, we're going to learn the bench press from a seasoned coach. Not only is he a head coach for Powerlifting Singapore, he is the vice president and category 2 referee. He is none other than Jun Jie Ng. Okay, so JJ, when it comes to warming up for the bench press, what is it that we need to keep in mind as competitors or athletes? What is it that we need to focus our attention on?
Okay, so for me personally, I think that one of the biggest things with warming up is try to keep it as simple as possible. If you are someone that can just lie straight on the bench and get to benching, then do that. Like, I think there doesn't need to be this elaborate gymnastics routine type thing where you're like trying to gain all the shoulder mobility or all the hip mobility, or like become like a donut with your spine and things like that to get benching right. So I think that's my first port of call. I'm always looking at if the person can lie straight on the bench, do the bar and have absolutely no problems, then do that. But I'm also aware of the fact that not everybody can. People might come into powerlifting from other sports where they have had prior shoulder issues, or even if you're just like benching after you're squatting, your shoulders can feel quite restricted from like the positioning or like the squeezing or the setup itself, and that can cause some issues, or that can just cause some discomfort, not just in the shoulders but in the back and the hips, and things get tight, right? Especially if you're going to a really hard set before or on squats before you bench press itself. So there are a few drills that I like for that, and when I talk about drills, I typically try to keep them as simple as possible, bearing in mind that what you do in training has to be, to an extent transferable to what you can do on a platform, or on competition day. I wouldn't say the platform because you're not going to do drills on a platform, but on competition day, you might not have all the equipment you need for your drills. So what I will show you, I guess today, is like one that I like, and then like a replacement for competition day itself, and how you can kind of adjust things and treat things a little bit differently. We can show you the first drill, and I know historically you are someone that has like a lot of like shoulder restrictions and stuff, so that's regardless of whether or not you've squatted. So one of the ones that I really like is called I call it the easy way to say it's like a mega upper back stretch, or the nerdy way to say it is we call it the incline bench posterior expansion, or we'll show you that, and then we'll show you a comp day replacement for it. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a pair of 17.5 kilo dumbbells. We've got the incline set around like 30 to 45 degrees. Yeah. And so what?
So I think the first thing to explain is like the load selection on it. One of the things that I like to kind of like give a rough ballpark about what load to use, that it has to be somewhat heavy but not like super heavy. So one of the things that will typically happen with the shoulders is that a lot of times we squeeze it back and down. So one of the things that when we do any sort of kind of prep for the shoulders, we want to kind of reverse that position and get it to like kind of protract and even kind of like elevate a little bit to create that position. And also this is great for the spine as well. It feels super restricted. Okay, so with the weight, I usually say about 10% of like your deadlift working range. So say if you're someone that deadlifts like 170, you're looking at about like 17.5%, because you do need some weight to actually get that position. Because imagine if you're like a 300 kilo deadlifter, and you're trying to like lengthen your shoulders with like ping dumbbells or like 2 kilos, your natural just structure and musculature is not gonna, like, things are not gonna, there's not gonna be much changes for you. So we'll use 17.5. Generally, we were talking about the angle. So this might differ for some people, but essentially you want to have, if you look from the side, you're kind of like reaching below 90 degrees. So I would say that even this incline would probably be a little bit too like steep for him. Sorry, not steep enough for him. So maybe if Norman, you can get up a little bit. We can even set it up one more notch. Yeah. So that the arm is not kind of like reaching 90 degrees. Think more like 60 degrees and below. So yeah. So the main point of this is you really want to kind of just relax your neck, like Norman just kind of, and then you just want to think about like setting up the position by breathing out first. So like just have like a big sighing exhale and let everything out. And as you breathe in through your nose, you want to kind of expand this area, right? And also, I think one of the key points to know is you want to kind of almost feel like you can get a little bit of breathing into here as well. If you feel like the lower back area is a bit restricted, one of the things you can do is think about like tucking the hips under, right? But not too much, because you always want to do it, just kind of like roll your hips under rather than like squeeze your glutes or anything like that. Because I think if you try to use a lot of tension, a lot of squeeze, you can actually restrict more mobility than before. And then you want to do this for about 3 to 5 breaths, really focusing on letting the arms lengthen with every exhale. So this might seem a little bit counterintuitive at the beginning, because with bench press, you want your arms to be really short, but we're kind of saying that, hey, you want to kind of like lengthen the arms and things like that. So I like this for creating a little bit more spinal mobility, a little bit of shoulder external rotation, which helps at kind of like getting the bar really, really deep in that bottom position and feeling comfortable with that. Yeah.
So is it an issue if I go too heavy on this?
So it will be an issue if you go too heavy, because one of the things, especially in quote unquote traditional powerlifting, is that, you know, everyone wants to squeeze their lats and get super tight on it. And if you go super heavy, like if you use 45s or like 50s, then you get a lot of lat tension, and you might feel that, oh, my lats are getting a really good stretch. But the more tension you feel when you're doing a drill that's meant to make you less tight, it's going to be like counterintuitive to that, because and as powerlifters, it's very easy to kind of bias ourselves or force ourselves into doing the thing that gives us the most sensation. But I think the key here is really focusing on that breath, really focusing on expanding the back, really focusing on the lower back expansion, feeling like, hey, I can actually get a really good like in and out airflow through it. Really focusing on the inhales through the nose, and then, you know, the deep sighing exhale or through the mouth as well. So generally, I say make the exhales twice as long as the inhales. And if you are new to this, or you feel like you're a very bricked up individual, typically you feel like breathing out is really, really tough to do. So that's what I've experienced with some clients who struggle with this. But, you know, over time, the more you do it, you feel like, hey, I can get more range, and like my shoulders, my back, everything feels a little bit nicer to move through. Yeah.
You mentioned 3 to 5 breaths as opposed to giving a time prescription. Is there a reason why?
Because everyone will have different length of breaths, right? If like breath work or like the breathing stuff is super new to you, your breath might be like 3 seconds in and like 5 seconds out, right? Whereas like if I did it like, or like if someone who actually practices it a lot did it, they probably lay here for like a full minute and stuff. Which is also why I say the better you get at these kind of things, the less you have to do it, and like it then becomes a piece of your arsenal or your toolbox. You can like, oh, okay, today my shoulders are a little bit restricted. I'll use this for this reason, rather than say like, hey, I have to do it, otherwise my shoulders will just like explode or something like that. So I think it's not about creating those narratives around like being too fragile and things like that.
So what's the next drill?
So for the replacement, because I did talk about the fact that we will a nice little replacement for this if you cannot get an incline bench at a competition is you can either use something like a banded reach. So a banded reach might be, say for example, if you get you can get like a band like this, and you can just like wrap it around a rack or something like that and just do like a kind of like a low reach. Then you just want to kind of like have a little bit of some like knee bend to it. So how
angle am I looking for with?
So again, same thing. You want to be sub 90, I think about 60 degrees and stuff. And then you want a slight like knee bend. So yeah, keep your weight on kind of like your heels and stuff. And then just have like a slight hip tuck. Yeah, like just really like and just kind of like sit into it and breathe. So almost feel like you're falling back and open up as well. So no tension in the arms. Let the band kind of like pull you through as well. And then if for me, I'm a little bit lazier than that. And also for me, I feel that sometimes it's not really the shoulders, more of the spine. You can even progress this into a bench supported deep squat. So if you're done with this drill, we can move on to like just get like onto a bench, right? If you get on a bench, you just like squat really just reach to the bottom and then squat really deep. So with this drill, what I want you to do is try to get back a little bit so that your knees are almost at your chest rather than outside. So take half a step back. Actually take a full step back. Yeah. And then just like, yeah, there we go. So that's a little bit, you can see how the back here is a little bit more flexed rather than if you kind of open your knees and stuff. So again, try to just relax your hands. It should just be there to hold you up rather than needing to necessarily like grab or pull onto the bench as well. Yeah. And also, I think one of the things is if you go to a new gym and you're doing this, and you're like really grabbing their pads, you don't want to rip anything or like break anything as well. So just some gym courtesy for that. So out of the like the three, which do you feel you like the most?
I felt quite a lot from that, and so by the time I finished that, I don't know how much more the banded one gave me.
Yeah.
But it's nice to sort of have a range to my.
Yeah. So I think the all of these have shown are really good for like external rotation. So like really helping with like getting the arm like into that bottom position as well. And then we've talked a lot about like flexion based drills for setting up the bench press. We can move on to some of the extension based stuff that I like. And then we can actually get to benching. Okay, so we've talked a lot about flexion based kind of prep for shoulders. And the reason why we start there is because if you're already extended, you can't extend anymore. If you're already if your car is, so the analogy that I really like is that if your steering wheel is already turned to the left, you can't turn left anymore. You're already turning left. You have to kind of like turn right first before you can drive straight again, right? So just having that exposure to both like flexion and extension range is really good. And I think that a lot of powerlifters, we are very used to extension because that's what we need for a sport, but then we don't really have exposure to the flexion range. So starting there, turning your steering wheel right first before you can turn left again even more is a good place to start. So the two extension based drills that I like for bench press, essentially I like to do it on the bench itself, the first one. And there are a few things that I would like to caution people against with these drills, just from my own experience, is that if you're someone that already experiences quite a little bit of like anterior shoulder pain, these are some of the drills I'd be really careful about, because if because a lot of the anterior shoulder pain comes from that really like extension bias strategies and the shoulder not moving well in those strategies. So so that's just something to be really careful of, and especially if you don't run those flexion based exercises first and you just like start banging yourself on extension, it could make certain symptoms worse. But that's just my experience. Obviously, you know, pain is multifactorial, all that kind of like funny things, but you know, it's not saying it's going to cause pain, but just be careful, okay? So the first one I like is you see a lot of people do this on the ground. I have a specific reason why I do it on the bench, and I don't like to do it on the ground. Is simply because when you're on the ground and you're lying flat, your hips don't your hips don't break the level of the ground, right? Which is not what happens specifically on the bench press itself. So I like it on the bench because some degree of elevation allows you to drop your hips under you, and then that can open up the hips as well as the lower back as well. Okay, so usually what I'll do is we'll put a foam roller on the bench, and then I'll have you like lie down on the bench itself.
Whereabouts in my back should the foam roller be?
I'd say probably we'll start at lumbar because most people will have mobility there, and then we'll slowly work our way up from there. Okay, so with this exercise, the position that we care about is actually, can I get you to just like relax your abs? So like feel like a lot of like your abs kind of like lengthen out, right? So a lot of people with this exercise, right? They try to be very tight, like their brace is similar to the squat and the deadlift, right? Which is not what you really want. So you want to actually lengthen out the abs on the top side here. Just take the first few breaths to relax the upper the abs itself, right? Feel like everything is creating some length. You can even do some kind of like hip thrusts just to kind of like loosen up the ab area. So a lot of people will start to get very like, because of all the like rips down and back that they do in their squat and their deadlift, they'll feel like super good like ab tension, which is not really helpful for the bench press itself. Coupled with the fact that most people in the gym, they just train abs because it's a nice like aesthetic muscle. So these areas will always seem like super kind of like engaged and stuff. So the bench press, you want to just relax them. So it's great that I've been talking and you've just been lying there. We can start to see that the ribs are flaring out already, which is really nice. So then we can slowly work our way up. Okay, so once you can slowly just kind of like just work it. Just breathe. You don't really need to do anything kind of specific to it. In fact, with nothing, man, just chill there, you know, like let your coach talk at you, think about like what you're gonna do for the bench press, do some visualization. I think the more relaxed you are with this drill, the better it actually is, up to a certain point. So once you feel like, you know, every segment of your spine is opening up better and better and your hips are getting looser and looser, right? There's no specific breathing or anything that you need to do. Albeit, if you go to competition and you start doing this, like people will be like, oh, can I jump in? Like, can I take the bar? It's like yeah. So if you can find a bench that is not being occupied and do this and really get yourself to like down regulate from the squats and stuff, it's gonna be like way more helpful than needing to squeeze everything.
Why is it disadvantageous to do this variation on the floor?
Because you can't get this hip position. So if you lie on the floor, your hips will be like, your legs will be extended, like your knee will be on extended and stuff, and then you don't get like this the kind of like hip flexor stretch, lengthening that you would get if you were otherwise on the bench. And so that's why I don't like it on the floor. But obviously, if you want to do that segmentation on the floor and do the hip flexor last, it's something you can do as well. But I prefer to do everything at the same time because it just makes things a little bit like there's less things to think about, right? Okay, so as you're relaxed already, you're moving up, right, towards your set. So the point where you might want to start actually doing some like like something active is when the foam roller kind of gets below the level of your scap. So if you just kind of roll it up, so you don't have to hold the bar or anything. So just kind of go higher a bit. Yeah, go higher a bit. Can you keep your head on the bench? Sorry, your neck on the bench, like that? No, not right. No, your hips and your neck at the same time. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I think one of the things we want to try is it below your shoulder blades?
Yeah.
Like, is actually
It's on the lower part of my ribs.
Of the shoulder blade or of the ribs?
Ribs.
Okay, I wanted to get the foam roller kind of like directly under the shoulder blades. Yeah. Okay, cool. Now from here, this is where it's kind of like for people who are who are clued in on the FRC and stuff. This is where they call it like a pale rail. So it's kind of like end range like irradiation type of thing. So what you want to do is, as you breathe out, I would like you to melt over the bench, the foam roller. Right, so breathe out, and then as you breathe in, I would like you to kind of retract really hard as you can. Breathe in, retract, and then like breathe into here for me. Yeah. So one of the things that can actually get you to feel this position a little bit more is if you kind of like take that bottom position of the bench press, right? And then as you're breathing in, like squeeze your shoulder blades really hard, right? And then breathe into this part of your, and then as you breathe out, yeah, breathe out, melt. And then as you breathe in, like almost like you're trying to pinch the foam roller with your shoulder blades. And then do for like 3 to 5. And every time you do that, every time you're doing the exhale, try to see if you can touch the back of your traps or the back of your neck to the bench whilst maintaining your glutes on the bench. Right. So really squeezing that shoulder and seeing how that feels. So definitely a little bit of work we're doing there. Okay, so cool. So we can get up off the bench. So with that, I think see how your shoulders feel and move.
New range of motion.
Yeah. So I think a lot of that is taking time to work through segments of it and doing the pale rail. If you use the FRC term, to really just like get that movement going.
That end range.
Yeah, end range retraction, and then that like really like end range thoracic extension. Yeah, I think that's really important as well, compared to other stuff. So a lot of the extension based drill is one of the extension based drills that I really like as well. Yeah, cool. Do you have any kind of questions about that as well? Okay, so pretty self-explanatory. I think it's just the coaching and cueing part of executing that pale rail that I think a lot of people miss out. They just lie on the foam roller and then they like squeeze really hard, but they're not sure what they're really squeezing as well. Okay, cool. So the next drill that we do is for people who actually feel like the foam roller itself and that drill might not be sufficient. But I think for most people it will be, but this is just like a little bit of a level up to it. So if what I like to do is use the rack itself. So maybe if we just kind of drop it to like a 9 or something. Yeah. So one of the things that I like with this one is that, okay, so how you want to set it up is, can you sit on the bench?
Yep.
Like, yep. And then go all the way back.
Okay.
Yeah. Like all the way. No. Just sit all the way back until your back is against the bench. So so we can see that with this one, where I typically like to set it up is if the bar is kind of around like armpit height. So we might need to drop it like to 7. Right. And then we kind of measure that out as well. Okay, cool. So is that a little bit better? A little bit more. Okay, cool, perfect. So you can do this two ways. I typically like to use a little bit of weight to do it. So it's kind of the same extension drill, but this time you're just using the bar for it. And what this kind of drives is a little bit more weighted extension. Typically, you can use some weight. You should use some weight, but I would say maybe keep it like 5 kilos and under, because you just need a little bit of gravity to pull you in the position, rather than needing like a super heavy. Like don't do it with like 25 or something. I don't think that's necessarily helpful. So what you're gonna do is you're just gonna put it overhead, and then you're gonna do the breathing, but with every inhale you're gonna push the plate kind of away from you
Towards the ceiling?
Yeah, towards the ceiling, and then as you exhale, you're gonna let the shoulder just drop backwards as well. So I'm just aware of the, yeah. So when you inhale, push it up, and you exhale. So this is very good for people who have limitations in like shoulder flexion, which means going overhead. Yeah. So just relax into it, relaxed. Yeah. You can see that you're still like quite holding on to a lot of tension, but one of the reasons is because of, like, obviously I know you have history of like shoulder issues and stuff. So yeah, just relax into it.
Yo, right.
If you find that you're really struggling to relax, the 5 kilo might be too heavy. Yeah, so you might want to use like two 1.5s or something like that, just to open it up.
Would you choose like a separate weight or just one singular weight?
So it depends. I specifically use a bigger bumper plate because of your shoulder width. So what you don't want is like if you have a lifter that's like a really like a super heavy or whatever, right? You don't want them to like use like a biscuit, and then they're really like crunched up and everything like that. So like obviously you might be better to have like more free range on both shoulders as well. So you can use 2 plates.
Yeah.
You can use kettlebells, things like that as well. If you're at comp and for some reason you cannot find a weight, you can even get your coach to kind of like stand behind you and just give you like 1 to 2 kilos of tension, just to like kind of like, yeah, just to manually give you a little bit of like pressure downwards as well. So this is another one that I like as well for people to really work on that end range, because the foam roller one, sometimes people still get a lot of like low back and things like that, whereas this one, when you're seated closer to the back, you don't get as much low back extension.
Does the resistance matter with regards to this drill, or is it more the idea of having something to hold on to?
So again, similar to the bench posterior expansion, you don't want to use a load that is like super crazy. Like you're not trying to suplex your arm in this drill. It's almost like there's like a sweet spot between too heavy, where you're like just like doing a lat pull over at that point, right? And then there's also too light, where it's like you're not really getting anything from it. But I would say that I'd rather err on the side of it being too light than too heavy, because there can be more things that go wrong when it's too heavy, especially if you're just trying to do it as a drill itself. Yeah.
So that was the warm-up section. If you liked what you see, make sure you click subscribe so you can check out the full tutorial of the bench press.